He is buried in the cemetery at Niepokolanów. Less than 8 months after Father Kolbe's heroic death, at a cafe in downtown Krakow, 30 miles from Auschwitz, the Gestapo conducted a mass roundup. More than 24 men were arrested, among them a 21-year-old plant worker named Karol Wojtyła. Although he was carrying an Ausweis card, identifying him as a worker essential to the German war effort, Wojtyła was still arrested. In the end, having the card saved Wojtyła, but most of the men arrested with him were deported to Auschwitz and executed before a firing squad against this wall, just a few feet from the cell window where Father Kolbe had died. The far-reaching consequences of the young plant worker's narrow escape would dramatically alter the course of history. From 1920, the year he was born, inside this small 3-room apartment in Wadowice, Poland, a profound destiny would guide Karol Wojtyła. Tragically, that destiny would include extreme loss and sadness at an early age. When young Karol was only 8, his young mother, Emilia, died suddenly while Karol was at school. Afterwards, friends remember Karol as sad and depressed, robbed of his lightheartedness. And then, only 3 years later, his older brother Edmund, whom Karol idolized, perished after contracting scarlet fever. Karol and his father were left alone. Karol's father, a retired military officer and devout Catholic, was determined to provide his only surviving son with all the love and nurturing he could give. He taught Karol the importance of self-discipline, academics, and hard work. At age 14, Karol discovered theater and literature. Naturally gifted as an actor and inspired by his Polish literary heroes, Karol wrote, directed, and performed his own plays.
On był chłopcem bardzo przystojnym.
He was a very handsome young man. He was tall, with his head always slightly bent toward his chest, and with a big head of hair he could never tame. He had a beautiful voice and a very good delivery, but all that wasn't as important as the fact that he was so intriguing to another person.
From childhood on, young Karol displayed a wholesome devotion to God and religion. He possessed tremendous strength and energy, physical, mental, and spiritual. He loved the outdoors, spending as much time as he could skiing, hiking, and kayaking in Poland's breathtaking Carpathian Mountains. In May of 1938, at age 18, he and his father moved to Krakow so Karol could study Polish language and letters at the Jagiellonian University. The college campus was near the Franciscan seminary where Father Kolbe had taught, and only miles from Sister Faustina's convent. Karol completed his first year of college with excellent marks in all his courses, as well as landing lead roles in theatrical productions. The future looked bright for this budding intellectual. But a dark and violent storm was brewing in Europe, and Karol, along with all of Poland, would soon feel its destructive force. The early morning hours of September 1st, 1939, did not begin with the quiet surge of the Vistula River, to which Karol had become accustomed. Instead, he watched as Krakow, the city called the Jewel of Poland, was overrun by invading Nazi tanks and troops. The German occupation of Poland had begun, and with it, a new chapter in the young life of Karol Wojtyła. In a single statement, the German dictator Adolf Hitler commanded his army to eradicate every aspect of Polish life, intellectual, religious, and cultural.
I have issued the command, and I'll have anybody shot to utters but one word of criticism, executed by a firing squad, that our war aim does not consist in reaching certain lines, but in the physical destruction of the enemy. Accordingly, I have placed my death-head formations in readiness, for the present only in the east, with orders to them to send to death, mercilessly and without compassion, men, women and children, of Polish derivation and language.
With Hitler's order, Krakow's theater was to become the battlefield where Karol Wojtyła would fight German oppression, and his weapon would be the power of drama and the spoken word. The young actor helped found an underground theater group to sustain Polish culture. These clandestine performances were the front line of Poland's cultural war. Participation in the underground was an offense punishable by death. It would echo a mysterious lifelong pattern of close calls, where Karol's life would consistently be spared by God's divine mercy.
I would say that his life has been incredibly punctuated, from early childhood by those near tragedies.
At age 10, a gun fired by a young playmate went off, missing Karol's head by centimeters. Later, while he worked at the Solvay chemical plant, a fellow laborer was killed next to him by a sudden explosion. And during the German occupation, Karol was hit by an army truck, hurled to the pavement, and was knocked unconscious for 9 hours with a severe concussion. Still another time, during the German occupation, the Gestapo directed a massive dragnet in Krakow, arresting all males between 15 and 50. In his apartment on Teniecka Street, as the Gestapo searched one floor above, Karol prayed silently, outstretched in the form of a cross on the basement floor. The soldiers mysteriously never searched the lower level. But while Karol himself eluded death at every turn, still death would invade his life again, as it had done before with his mother and brother. This time it robbed him of his 62-year-old father. It was February 1941, and Karol was only 20.
It was definitely a great friendship, a great love, and his last link with the family. And I guess, because Karol never spoke about it, that the death of his father was the last straw in Karol's decision to choose another path.
That path would lead Karol here, through the ancient Polish town of Częstochowa and the Marian shrine of Jasna Góra. Millions of pilgrims from all over the world visit the shrine year-round to venerate this 6th century Byzantine icon of the Madonna and Child. Jasna Góra, or Luministon, is the spiritual epicenter of Poland, an integral part of who they are as a people. Ironically, it was at this shrine where the destinies of Faustina, Kolbe, and Wojtyła mystically united. Here, God's mercy is manifested not only through individual confessions, but also through faith and hope in the midst of life's hardships, both individually and nationally. As superior of Niepokalanów, Father Kolbe organized pilgrimage to this centuries-old shrine for his friars. He would often celebrate Holy Mass at one of the side altars. And Faustina came here in 1933, where she prayed for hours before the icon, entrusting her perpetual vows to the Holy Virgin. And so it was in May 1942, weeks before his 22nd birthday, that Karol Wojtyła came here also to pray. Prayer was the spiritual compass he would habitually turn to for guidance throughout his life.
Yes, that is his most remarkable quality. A thing that characterizes Wojtyła best, the way he prayed. Actually, it was more than just prayer. It was as though he directed his